You said on Saturday you would kind of look at the film and that would determine who was going to be starting to be your quarterback this week. Have you made any conclusions there?
Yeah, we'll start Luke. Yeah.
But what else did you see on film that you said he was overanalyzing things?
I think when he plays his best, he just goes out and plays. And I think, sometimes he plays slow. And I think that it wasn't just him. It was our offense as well. And then, Helinski stormed down and scored right before half. So, he kind of gave us a spark. And then also, of course, we got ahead. But we didn't play consistently well on either side of the ball, defense or special teams either. And so we kept, as fast as we got out of the hole, we got into the hole even faster.
Luke seems like a pretty even-keeled guy, even in adversity, like you saw on Saturday. Just with regards to him, like overanalyzing things, like you said, have you noticed him putting any additional pressure on himself at all?
Well, I think that's part of the whole thing. I think he needs to not put any pressure on himself. Because he's worked hard and he's trained, and he needs to just do the best he can and be pleased with that, because that's all anybody's got's their best, and plus nobody trains harder than him anyway. So, he needs to just understand that his best is plenty.
Is there an element with Luke where when someone studies so much, they maybe know too much and they get it all clogged in their head a bit?
I think that happens to everybody, but with that said, he is the most successful quarterback in the conference, and still is, so.
What does Tyler bring to the table, and what are the positives you saw and some of the negatives or the things you need to work on with him as he moves forward?
He's got quick feet. Ball comes off his hand quickly, reckless, and some of that's just reps and experience.
You see a little bit of Connor Halliday and Tyler Helinski at all?
Kind of between Luke and Connor, maybe, some Connor, but, a lot of his work habits and, things that have developed his skills to where they are, I think are drawn from Luke as an example.
Was it important to let Tyler work through some of those things, seeing as how he's presumably going to play a lot next year and going to have to deal with some adversity and, had some experience doing that on Saturday?
Some, but, the bigger thing is just to get the best play and effort out there that we can.
How do you feel like Luke has handled those experiences when he's been taken out and he's been next to you on the sidelines with Tyler out there?
I think he's pretty well handled anything football related excellently. You're talking about a guy that's had kind of a longer path than nearly everybody. He's had a longer path than nearly everybody, and he's taken it further than nearly everybody, and so he just has to keep plugging away.
Tyler kind of praised the offensive line on Saturday. Did you think it was one of their better games despite the result?
Yes, I did. I thought they improved. I don't think we're there yet, but I thought we improved.
Perhaps some of the leadership that Isaac Dodson and Peyton Plora bring can you see that maybe missing on defense right now?
No, I think we had bad eyes. Those guys are great guys, Peyton in particular. Isaac we've played without a lot. But I think that our eyes in the bad play in the wrong place, and some alignment issues, and they came out and ran the option, and we didn't defend it well at all. We defended it horribly. So, but the thing is the option, which is an offense I've always admired, makes you a gap accountable for every gap, and they just picked the one that that we over pursued pretty much, and and off they went. And then of course their quarterback's a good player.
4 turnovers certainly kept the defense on the field a little bit longer than you obviously would have liked. Did you notice any fatigue at all from the unit in the second half?
Well, I really didn't. Because those turnovers typically came at the end of drives. We had 100 and some plays. They had 51 plays. 51 plays isn't very many. I don't think fatigue even was a remote factor in this. I think our own efforts. The turnovers took us out of drives and took us out of points. I don't think they fatigued the defense. You know, so if we score on all those drives, then we have more points, and if we stop them on not just those drives but any others, because some of those drives amounted to a punt as far as a change of the field, and you know, we got to play better, which you know.
Were you close to putting Luke back in after the pick six late in the game, or?
I was pretty late then. No, not really. I was going to just let him finish it out. But at that point, you know, because he moved the ball, marched down the field, done a good job, just got reckless with the ball a couple times. Some of them were tip balls. You know, one or two of them we should have caught, you know.
Transitioning now to Stanford, what do you see in them and what makes them such a good team?
They're big and strong. Same stuff that it always is. They're a big, strong, physical team. You know, their offensive line and defensive line is as big and strong and physical as anybody in the conference.
What do you see from Bryce Love and his tremendous abilities at running back?
Well, he's a good running back in a conference full of good running backs, you know. Yeah, we've got a lot of great running backs in this conference. I actually think that fella at Oregon State's the best one in the conference, but, you know, he's a very good running back in a conference full of good running backs.
Does it help your team that having played running backs, you know, with those skills going up against somebody like Bryce Love?
Does what?
Having played the good running backs in this conference, does that help going up against a guy like Bryce Love, assuming he plays?
Probably. You know, I mean, you know, the biggest thing, you got to play well against the run, stop the run, and you know, Stanford's not a group that's going to option it, things like that. But you got to be good against the run game, which, you know, which other than last week we have been.
Why do you think that Oregon State guys is the best one? Is Randall the one you're referring to?
Oh yeah, no, he's excellent. Oh, why do I? Well, first of all, he's big. Second of all, he's faster than you think. Third of all, he's very elusive. Even, I mean, you got this big chunk of elusive out there. And then the other thing, the guy catches the ball really well. The guy blocks pretty good. Could block better because he's a huge guy. The thing is everybody in the stadium knows that he's going to get the ball. I mean, you know, there's no mystery who's getting the ball there at Oregon State. And then, you know, it's not like his supporting cast is like some of the schools, you know, around the country. You know, everybody brags about their running back, and running backs usually come from big, highly touted traditional schools. And and part of it because they get first pick. Okay, well then, but you know, you got this guy that he's one of their main weapons, has been for several years, and everybody knows that he's getting it, and everybody knows that, and they have a great line, but there's some lines in this conference that are better, you know, that have, you know, kind of recruiting advantage and whatnot that are better, and you know, the guy's still productive. I think he's the most productive one. And you know, if you were to somehow magically move all the running backs around the conference, you know, they all got their licks in playing for Washington State. They all got their licks in playing for Stanford. They all got their licks in playing for USC, Cal, Utah, whoever. I think he's the best one. So,
Going back to the Arizona game,
so maybe I'll get to meet him someday. I've seen him from a distance, and we've tackled him after he gets a certain number of yards or catches it. And then, of course, sometimes he'll rub our nose in it just a little bit, but I think the guy's really good.
just going back to the Arizona game, we're talking about run defense. How much of the blame do you put on your defense, and how much do you put on just Khalil Tate being better than Pac-12?
I think Khalil Tate's really good, but the where we have a problem where you know where we weren't what we should have been was there's too many gaps unattended, too many times where a guy just runs through and just goes. You know, there's nobody there, or some of those pop passes, nobody's there. You know, and so I think we were very reckless with our eyes and we weren't in the gaps we should have been. And, any one of those things, if you are, the whole thing's different. All you got to do is be there. It's not like you have to be superhuman. You just have to be there.
Going back to Stanford now, what does David Shaw do exceptionally well as a coach that's allowed him to build Stanford into a consistent 9-game, 10-game winner?
I think David Shaw's a good coach, but Jim Harbaugh built that. He worked for Jim Harbaugh, and Jim Harbaugh, they were winning quite a few games when he got there. But I do respect Coach Shaw.
How tough is it to recruit and have the standards that a certain school like Stanford has grade-wise?
I actually don't think it's that hard. I know that everybody wants to sing the blues and act like they have the toughest uphill battle that there is. I've always thought that recruiting Stanford would be pretty good. You have to recruit nationally. But if if you take a guy anywhere, say he's from Maine or say he's from Iowa or say he's from Virginia or Florida, and he's worked extremely hard on his grades, and he's worked very hard on his grades. And he can have offers from all the favorites everybody says, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Penn State, Florida, Florida State, Texas, just go through the whole list, throw the Trojans in there, why not? But if that kid's worked that hard and is that driven academically, he'll listen to Stanford and he'll talk to Stanford. And because it provides a great opportunity. The other thing that I've heard from recruits that they do, which I think is a pretty good idea, when the recruiting process comes out, it's like, what do you want to major in? Well, I want to major in rocket science. Well, then they'll rattle off the schools that don't have rocket science, and then they'll say, by the way, with your rocket science degree from Stanford, you get the starting salary is X amount, and then if you go to all these other schools, it's going to be this amount. And so, they have a lot to offer. I've never thought it was particularly tough to recruit there. I think that also people I've talked to that have been there, if you're looking for a corner, well, all right, here's the 10 corners around the country that are good enough that can get in here, and then you fly to the 10, and one of them's probably going to do it because he worked extremely hard academically. And then I think also Prop 48, which there's a lot of things about that rule that I like, where they raised the admission standards to college. As you cut the field out of the bottom, that helps Stanford because, some schools that, if you can get anybody in, and then it limits the field, then it narrows the field that you can get in. So, no, I think that depending how it's played, and I think they've done this for over 10 years, played, Stanford to the point where it's a recruiting advantage.
Any other questions in the room? We'll go to questions on the phone. Steph, why don't you start us off?
Hey, Mike, you mentioned a couple times that Buck tries to overanalyze.
You're going to have to start again because we got,
Sure.
with all this technology here, and it's brilliant, of course, because I can hear your voice and yet I can't see you. And I'm not holding anything up to my ear, but the volume was down, so you're going to have to go again.
Sure. You've mentioned a couple times Paul tends to overanalyze things. Is this something that you've noticed mostly this year, or has he been doing it in the past and it just kind of exacerbated it this year?
I think a lot of really good quarterbacks do. I think people that are achievers in general do. Because I think they're constantly thinking about what they do, what their job is, and constantly working on it and obsessing over it to a point that because that's part of what's helped them grow and build and elevate. And then I think that you know, and so, I mean, there's been a lot of benefits from, you know, the diligence that goes along with it. And then, you know, I think that, but you can't let it slow you down. You can't slow you down. It's got to, you know, experience and knowledge needs to enhance what you do. And I think it definitely has most of the time.
I see. And so his biggest thing, like he always tells us, is that he takes what the defense gives him. Do you see like this is becoming almost a liability because he's less aggressive because he is just kind of taking what the defense presents?
Yeah, well, there's a point to where who cares about the defense? You have to attack them. Some type of a balance tipping point in there, I would say.
How do you help him find that balance?
Just keep doing the same thing. I mean, you know, I mean, a part of it's just, you know, perspective and stuff like that. I mean, you know, because you yourself, you're going to overanalyze something today. I don't know what it is. You know, we got Bobby Allworth here. He could follow you and send me a report, and then I could get back to you on what it is specifically. But, or at least our evaluation of what it is. And then, I mean, everybody does. I'm about to go up there and obsess over and watch a whole bunch of film on Stanford, and I guarantee you there's going to be sub-vocalizations, there's going to be analysis, there's going to be some plays that are going to be watched 4 times as many times as they need to be. Best case scenario, there's going to be some really fine plays put on the board that will run. And some of them I knew instantly and right away. Some will be ones belabored over. And then some, after all kinds of analysis, may turn out to be just bad decisions. And some of those may be because I didn't go with my first instinct or impression. I mean that's life with everybody, not just with Luke.
So if you had to do it over again, would you have reinserted him into the game after Tyler threw the 4th interception?
Well, I was planning. Well, it was awfully late in the game then. I was. Boy, now that would have been a comeback there, wouldn't it? Put him in then and manufacture all those points. No, I originally. You know, the thought was sometime the second half, but Tyler was hot and doing a good job moving the ball.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions on the line? Tom, do you have one?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead.
Coach, this is Tom Fitzgerald from the San Francisco Chronicle. I hope you can hear me okay. I'm curious about something. I realize you're a very busy man, first of all, but was there any particular reason this teleconference started nearly 40 minutes late?
Yeah, because I had other obligations and I got here 40 minutes late. So, you know, fortunes of war. We're way up north here, and this is a tough place, and so that's the way it happens sometimes. But so, you know, I hope you feel better accommodated next time.
Okay. I'm curious about, have you decided who your starting quarterback is going to be this coming week?
Well, my. I wasn't 40 minutes late. It sounds like you may have been 40 minutes late. That was the first question I answered in this press conference.
I've been listening, trying to listen very carefully. Did you announce who your quarterback is going to be?
Yes, I did. The very first question in the press conference, and you can go back and review it on the computer.
Okay. Coach, you have made some very blunt comments about your players typically over the years after the games, particularly after losses. I was wondering if your bluntness has ever worked against you in any way.
Well, typically I'm most blunt on myself and you know, our ability as far as coaching it. I suspect it has. I suspect because I know that being too positive at times has. I know that being too positive at times has. So I suspect that the bluntness has. I do think that, you know, you're trying to always find that balance and that medium. And then the other thing that I think's tricky is there's 120 players out there, And there's 120 players out there, and in the course of that, I think the message reaches some in a different way than it does others. You know, I think one approach, you might get some and not others, and so I think it's always a bit of a struggle anytime there's a big group dynamic.
Coach, I know you have studied a lot of unusual subjects in the off season over the years. I was just wondering, do you know at this point what you're going to be studying this coming off season? I've been reading a list of all the things that you kind of get into in the off season. Do you know what you're going to do this off season?
I don't have anything specific. I got a bunch of books on my on deck circle, and of course, I've developed a new approach with the on-deck circle, which may not be a wise one. It is, I think, if you're going to open a used bookstore, but I don't know that it is if you're going to read all these books. But it used to be, if I saw a book that I thought I would like, I would try to remember it. Okay, then my latest thing is, okay, don't know if you'll get to it or not, but screw it, buy it. It doesn't cost very much anyway, and it'll be right there, and you'll see it, and then you'll read it. Well, that's awfully optimistic, because I can't say that I have consistently done that. So I have a clutter of books and stacks around. I don't have a specific subject. I got a couple. I mean, okay, so here's just a quick lineup in no particular order and no particular motivation around any of them. Okay, one is there's a Hunter Thompson biography by an author. I can't remember his name, and it's a shame because he wrote another really good book that I read. Anyway, biography on Hunter S. Thompson. Okay, then the other is down in Florida. There's a place, and there's not much material on it, but back, I'm going to say, I don't know when it started exactly, about the 30s, there's a place called Stiltsville that's still there barely, just off the coast of Miami, and it used to be everything from, people would live there, fishermen would tie up there and live there, gambling halls, depending on the time in history, liquor and brothels during Prohibition, and, they're still there. And then it's kind of on state property, and if if a hurricane or a fire or something wipes it out, you're not allowed to rebuild them, but you're allowed to, have the ones that are there. And they're just like these little stilted dock house things out there in the water. In other words, from there you can see the skyline of Miami, but from Miami you can't see Stiltsville because, it's too flat, close to the water. The other one, and the book keeps intimidating me, and I keep thinking, well, I hear it's a great book. Everybody's read it, says it's a great book. But it's the size of the Chicago phone book. The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich, which is a very intimidating looking book, but the thing is we had a journalist over there, and and he witnessed firsthand, knew these people personally, some of the very evil characters, that how they evolved, how they developed, and how they twisted off there in Germany at that time. And then I got another book there that I've had forever. It's a biography of Sparky Anderson, and I've always liked baseball manager biographies. So that's sitting right there. I got a Hemingway. I could go on. So anyway, go ahead. What else you got?
Well, I'm curious about one of your subjects, and I hope the other writers will indulge me, because they probably heard this before, about the Pirates. What was it that got you interested in them, and is there anything about Pirates that you can apply to coaching?
You mentioned one. There is one. There is one great book, but it's kind of it's a little bit like reading the Old Testament or something, the way it's written on pirates. Well, anyway, I like pirates in general. I think an awful lot of people do. hence the popularity of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, among other things. I think that, and it's an interesting study, interesting time, where there was a lot of friction between countries, classes, not just racially, but also the rich people didn't hang with poor people. And then you got them all mixed up in this melting pot out there at various spots being pirates, and typically they were moving or leaving something, and some of them were just flat out rich guys that thought, hey, this will be a good way to make money. And then, of course, the Queen of England actually state-sanctioned piracy. Of course, you had to give her a cut of it. And so it went. So it's very fascinating from there. Started just general books, which I don't have a specific one, would just kind of read up on it, study on it. And then I've been lucky enough to go to a couple pretty good pirate museums and exhibits, as you can find them. But the best, okay, if a guy were to start with, the best book as far as, just reading a book, well, I'll tell you when it started, actually. Okay, here, because I'm thinking about it. The first, be just general as a kid, what can I watch, something about pirates. Okay, then we had the Time Life book, and Time Life, order it off the TV in the middle of the night type of deal, 12 easy payments, that type of stuff, right? And so anyways, we had the Time Life book on pirates, and the thing is we didn't have too many of them, because I think my parents got, they figured the 12 easy payments maybe weren't as easy as advertised, and so just got the kind of the good editions and none of the crummy ones. But so I started out reading that as a kid, so then it went on to other stuff. If the best book is, as far as somebody, if they just want to dip their toe in and check stuff out, it's called Under the Black Flag. Trying to think what the guy's name is that wrote it. It's called Under the Black Flag, and it's a very good book. And it's pretty comprehensive, and it's one of those books with all the good stuff and none of the boring stuff. And then there's but the most comprehensive is a guy that sailed with Henry Morgan, among others. Sailed with a lot of guys, and he kept a journal. He was a Dutchman, I believe, and his name was golly, I think it was. Well, I can never pronounce the last name. If you see it, you'll see it, and it's almost kind of the Bible on at least the Caribbean pirates. And I think his first name is Edwin, and I'm not sure on that part. And it's like Exquellem, EXQUELLE or AM or something like that. But and it is very interesting, and it's kind of step by step, event by event, day by day, and but just the way they talk back then. Again, it's like reading the Old Testament, so you got to pack a lunch if you're going to do that.
Well, Coach, thank you for the information. Is there anything about pirates that you would that you could apply to coaching?
I think just the general that you're all around a cause, because you got people from all walks of life. In football, you've got people from all walks of life. From all walks of life, different, sometimes different countries, different states, different regions, rich, poor, black, white, and other nationalities in between, and then occasionally somebody with different language or culture that way. So I think that's fascinating. And then, and they get to kind of draw from the experiences of one another. And there were elements of that definitely existed with pirates, and the group unifying around the cause of everybody fighting for one another. And then the other thing, there were actually elements of democracy within a pirate ship that were unusual at that time. And so I think this business of everybody kind of working together towards the same thing it can be kind of a colorful way to illustrate that I found is kind of captivating for the players.
Well, thank you very much, Coach. Best of luck to you on Saturday.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thanks, Tom. Any other questions back in the room?
Yeah, just obviously it's very weird that this is the last home game of the season, the beginning of November. Just looking back at how the schedule has shaken out so far, and now how you've seen your team after going through this, do you think the schedule has mounted up on you guys up until this point without having the break?
I don't really think so. I think that in this conference it always gets tougher and tougher, and you play some very good teams. I think you play some very good teams. I think wear and tear, it's not just showing up on us. I think it shows up on everybody. See, I'm allergic to this room. I think it shows up on everybody, around the country in general, but I think this conference in particular, because I think our conference, as I've mentioned, from top to bottom is the toughest one. I think, whoever ends up saying the bottom six in this conference, I think can beat the bottom six in any other conference. And I don't mean by a little, I mean by a lot. So that makes it particularly treacherous. I mean, you go play one team after the next, and they can all get you, and that's challenging.
As far as senior night goes, I know you'll probably do the same traditions that you usually do, but what does this day mean for you, just because this class in particular is really maybe part of that changing of the culture here, and was one of the first guys you brought in and has had such tremendous success under you?
Kind of two questions there. To be perfectly honest, it means very little. And the reason it means very little, because we're going to be preoccupied going out there to play a game, and then we're going to have 3 more games after that, at least, and maybe 4. So there's nothing that finishes for us. I mean, it's cool for the fans, and I guess they'll have a flag or something, or whatever, they do something. And then, but they, I mean, there's nothing final or finished for us. Really, for us, it'd be kind of more after the bowl, where some of the faces won't come back the next semester. Maybe they graduated and they're going into business, or else they're preparing to get their shot at the NFL or something. So I mean, there's no finality for us. So senior day, other than the fact that that a portion of them probably won't have to hear all my pregame speech. I mean, there's really nothing that, it's like, I hope the fans enjoy it.
And is there something nice about having senior day this early in the season, because it seems so early to the point where you can't even build it up really? Or
I wish I could brag about it for you. It really doesn't. I mean, there's no variance, no direction, and then again, that takes place more after the bowl. I mean, and this is, it's certainly a great class and a great group of people that have kind of been through a lot and done a great deal, for each other, and coaches, players, everybody is a team, and also for Washington State. And so, I mean, I don't want to diminish that in any way, but it's a little bit. Seasons, it's, like, you're talking about a whole season. It's a little bit like celebrating the graduation of your kid when they're a sophomore or something, I mean, you just kind of have to wait till the time comes.
12:30 kickoff time better than 7:45?
Well, I've always said that I thought the best time's around 3. I've never minded the night games. I'm in the habit of the night games, but I think most people like 12:30 better. Somewhere in between is probably ideal.
You did mention this is a special senior class. I mean, without having the finality, you're still going to play with them, but what has this class done for Washington State?
Well, I think they've done a lot. I think that, and I haven't added it up for a while, or somebody said in the last 2 or 3 years we've won more games than anybody else in the Pac-12, so I think that's kind of impressive. And then, and if not exactly, nearly, and so I think they've done a tremendous job, and I think a lot of them had to play early. I think they had some very tough off seasons, and then they had to build and set the standard that I think the others are following now, which, that's always the toughest because you have to make the transition and learn and develop and grow,
And then have you guys embraced the importance of this game on Saturday? Because obviously, as far as your goals towards winning the Pac-12 North, this is a seminal moment as a part of that journey.
I've never coached in a game that's not extremely important, so.
So I saw that Luke's grandpa passed away last week. Will he have a chance to get back to Logan for first service this week, or?
Yeah, I believe he's there today, so.
It sounds like his grandpa was pretty instrumental in getting him into football, and often came for the home games. Did you ever have a chance to meet him?
I'm trying to remember if I did or not. I don't recall for sure if I did or I didn't. I don't recall for sure.
Kind of going off of that, from the student perspective, it's Dad's weekend this weekend. For you, what's it like being both a head football coach and a dad at the same time?
Well, this time of year a little out of balance. It's more head football coach and less dad, I mean, you check in real quickly. Hey, is everything good? Is it good? It's good? Okay, good. And then, and of course the football end of it, you sit up in a dark room and you grind away and you watch a bunch of film and you scheme and you try to elevate your players and your team, and you scheme about the demise of the potential demise of your opponent, and if you come up with something really good, you snicker like Muttley, you see, and so then that's how it goes, and then you do that over and over, and it's immensely captivating, and it's so much fun. Everybody should do it.
Any other questions on the line?
Nope, thank you.
All right,
I appreciate it.
One more, Coach.
Yep.
Question. If you could go back and play baseball in any era, what team would you play for and what position would you play?
Oh, in baseball, any era. Well, usually I played third or outfield. I actually played more as I got older. Well, currently my favorite team is the Angels, and if the Astros win the World Series, you guys make sure that you remind everybody that I said so, because you were here when I did say so, and then and so make sure you make everybody else feel diminished and small based on the fact that you were here to hear it. So hopefully they take care of business here. Then. That's a tough question. I mean, Angels are my favorite team. As a kid, I was a Yankees fan, and then it was just too easy. It's too easy to be a Yankees fan. Well, first of all, it'd be very difficult to play on any of these teams. It'd be something for the Yankees, and they would either be, in the heyday, where they had, I think the most enjoyable would be the heyday where they had Mickey Mantle, Billy Martin, Whitey Ford, all those guys, Casey Stengel, right before Joe DiMaggio retires. I think that'd be like an incredible time, and then. So for the Yankees, and I forget the year. I don't know the exact year.
Did you not get to watch, have you been watching this World Series at all?
No, because I'm a football coach, and again, we sit in dark rooms and we watch a lot of film, and you know, there's high highs and low lows, and then you try to iron it out the best you can. But you know, we do have a guy check on his phone and update us, and even have a TV going on down the hall, in which you can't quite hear the TV, but you know, if somebody's going by the TV or happy or whatever. And our janitor's a big Dodger fan, so you can kind of gauge, you know, who's up or who's down by his reaction. And so, and he's a great guy. So then so then you'll try to gauge it by that, and then you might even scramble to the phone to see what's happening. So that's about it.